All right, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Gosh, 2 weeks done, is it? Yeah, it's 2 weeks by now. Goodness, how time flies. Hope you're all having the most wonderful, easy week and day, of course. And looking forward to learning some HTML with you today. If you're tuning in for the first time, hi, my name is Carmen. Etta, Jess, and I are running the Bad Website Club Free Web Development Bootcamp in collaboration with Free Code Camp. And today we're going to be doing our final session of HTML forms and tables. And a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. But in the meantime, I want to hear how's it been? What have y'all learned this week that particularly stood out to you? Definitely sound out in the chat. So by showing up to this bootcamp, by attending, by participating, you are agreeing to abide by our code of conduct. So if you go to badwebsite.club/code-of-conduct, you'll find out all of the details. In short, we're expecting all of you to please behave in constructive ways and act in ways that are exemplary to others. So if you see anything that's out of sorts, please let us know and we will hopefully be able to sort it out in a straightforward fashion. In order to keep up with the bootcamp schedule, please go to badwebsite.club/bootcamps/spring-2026. And please join us on Discord as well. You'll find the bootcamp discussion thread on the Free Code Camp Discord. So please hop in there, share things, ask questions, answer questions. One of the best ways to learn is to teach. That's how I've learned a ton of stuff about web development myself. And last, if you're not able to attend these sessions live, don't worry. Everything is recorded. If you go to youtube.com/@badwebsiteclub, you'll find our YouTube channel where you find all of the live recordings. So let me check in on the chat. Oh, goodness. We have questions already. Love it. So let's get right into it. I want to see what my form is sending to the server. Is there a way to see what you're posting when you submit a form using DevTools? That's a great question because there actually is. And great timing because today we're going to be learning about the DevTools. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to bring up an example. But there is a network. So Mel, spoiler, there's the network tab where you can see every network request, including this form sending. So you should be able to, but we'll look into that in just a moment. Christina's saying you fell behind. Don't worry. Remember, everything is recorded and you can keep up accordingly. So John's saying, I'm pretty sure I missed the day I needed the 5 checkboxes for the hotel page. I'm pretty sure it's correct, but it says it's not and cannot proceed. Well, tell you what, John, if you hop onto the Free Code Camp Discord, you could ask your question and have folks resolve it with you. I bet a lot of folks in here in the chat right now are super eager to help you out because that's going to teach them to debug. Speaking of which, let's hop right in. So here is the homework that we had. Let me make this a tiny bit larger. So for today, we asked that you please read the HTML validator and how it can help us, as well as how to use the DOM inspector and dev tools to debug and build our projects. We're also today going to be covering the survey form, which is super exciting because what's going to happen is this is your first certification project. Now, when you go through these certifications on Free Code Camp, you're not, you don't have to complete everything on the Free Code Camp certifications, but the certification projects are definitely part of it. Same for the exams and all of that. So John Monica's asking, can I email it? I haven't been able to get on their Discord. I'm game for any and all help. So there's nobody to email it to. I'm sorry. However, Free Code Camp does have a forum. Hang on a second. So let's open up Free Code Camp. If you go to menu, forum, you should be able to participate there. However, bear in mind, the Bad Website Club part, the Bad Website Club community, you're not going to find there. We're just on Discord right now. And we're getting, how long will today's class last? We usually go for about an hour. Sometimes we wrap up early. Sometimes we go a little bit over, but the aim is for an hour. I hope that answers all of your questions. So dev tools, I'm excited because we do so much dev tools in this class. Right, and today is the Build a Survey form certification as well. I'm not going to show you how to do it as always. It's similar to a lab. And so what I'm going to do is just sort of set you up so that you're ready to go at it. But you're going to see not too different from labs, just more involved. And I would recommend really spending a lot of time on them. All right, well, let's get right to it and talk about HTML validation. Mel's saying, I'm also not on Discord, and I tend to find Free Code Camp's forums great for getting help. So there you go. Check out the forum. So, oh goodness, I asked for help from them and got no response. Well, make sure that you're asking in the right place. You know what? I do actually want to spend a little bit of time about talking about asking for help. So this is, if the Discord doesn't work for you, I really do highly recommend the forum itself. That said, the best way to use resources like these is to make yourself as helpable as possible. So, and I don't want to criticize you, John Monica. This is something that I've struggled with a lot myself. But here, for example, you wrote, I'm mostly sure it's correct, but it says it's not and cannot proceed. And I really need more so if I were somebody reading the forum and saying, well, this, how can I help you? What I would recommend is putting as much information as possible. And here's a couple of heuristics I like to go by. What did I do? What did I expect? What I got instead? And what I've tried to mitigate it. So those are like my 4 general rules I tend to go by in order to make myself as helpable as possible. I'm really sorry that I can't help you here live. Like I said, best way to go about it is Discord or the forum. They do have a pretty active community there, so I'm surprised that you got no response. Make sure that you're also asking in the right sub-forum. Right. Sorry to take us off track, but that's what we're here for, to learn in a slightly calm and chaotic way. Oh, let's see. I like what Mel's saying here. It took me a long time to learn how to ask questions. Most of the time, people don't respond to my posts because my question was confusing or I didn't give enough details. It's asking for help is hard. Like for me, I've struggled the most with feeling a little bit insecure about whether my question isn't going to perhaps be seen as obvious or something very straightforward that I might have overlooked. But I have found that by asking my question in a way that, as said, makes me the most helpable, really takes it over the top and encourages folks to answer your questions. And to the folks who perhaps have an answer, as always, I encourage you to answer those questions. Great. Explaining things, putting thoughts to words is such an underappreciated way to learn something really effectively. Ooh, there's also a great article on Free Code Camp called How to Ask a Great Technical Question, The Art of Getting Help Debugging Code, which is a really good read. Knowing how to ask good questions is a skill. So much better put than me. There are other community platforms where you can help. Stack Overflow now has live rooms where you can talk in real time to others. It's nice. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. I just read a study that said when you ask for help, people respect the person asking questions more. I also struggle with asking questions. I'm so glad it's not just me. Thank you all so much for sharing. Okay, I'm going to get on topic now. I'm sorry, everybody. So let's talk about HTML validation because, and we might have seen this as we've been learning HTML the last literally couple of weeks. HTML, while it has a very structured syntax, is very forgiving, is what it says here. And by forgiving, what it means is that it allows you to have syntax. A lot of the time, it allows you to have syntax errors. So syntax errors in this case are miswritten code, right? Let's take a look at this code here, for example. We can actually, why am I just talking when I can show you? Edda, sorry, wonderful Edda, do you remember what that website you showed me was to like write HTML and have it render? I'm getting a thumbs up here, folks. I'm so excited. Thank you all for bearing with me. Thank you. HTML editor, that's it. Let's just mess around with this. So just gonna remove a whole bunch of stuff here and just have, okay. Let me come back to StreamYard and make sure that everybody can see. I'm gonna make it slightly larger for us. John Monica, please don't apologize. Like asking for help is so important. We really appreciate that you do. Okay, so let's just clean up a little bit here. Remove some of this and really focus here on our HTML that we just posted from FreeCodeCamp. Now check it out. H1 looks great. Subheading 1, subheading 2, all look great. Subheading 3, despite not being closed, still renders properly. But, and this is where it gets weird, if I put a paragraph in here, I am a para. Look at that. So even though this is a paragraph, it's still technically inside an H2. Right? So it renders as an H2. What this means is that it doesn't look like a paragraph. Heck, let's try more stuff. Let's put an unordered list in here. Oh, Eluado, please don't worry. I hope everything's okay. So unordered list item, item, li. And John Mark is asking, because no close tag, correct? That is absolutely correct. But isn't that funny about HTML that like, it's just like, okie dokie, if you say so, I'm just going to keep displaying this stuff, comma, I guess. Close my UL. Now you see, yeah, all of this is inside an H2 tag. Why? Because we never closed it. In fact, what happens if we put, it's interesting that it doesn't render the paragraph, even though it's not seeing it as a paragraph. Well, look at this. I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead for today. Developer tools, inspect. Look at this. It is, so we have our H2 here. Oopsie. So we have all of this in here. There's our subheading 3. There is actually the paragraph in there. Look at that. So much so, you see those orange bits above and below the paragraph? That is the usual margin around the paragraph. That's more of a CSS thing, but bear with me. So it's still styling it as if it were a paragraph, comma, for the most part, but it's prioritizing the fact that it's an H2, right? So it's bold and it's big. Because a paragraph, does not actually have a set font size. Same goes for this. So our unordered list and list items are still being rendered properly. It's not that, hold on, what did you say? That it doesn't render the P. It does render it, and it is rendering it correctly, but it's still inside the H2. So it's going to be big and it's going to be bold. So, right. See, that's what Free Code Camp here is saying. You can still do it. You just end up with weird stuff. Now, what's nice is that we have these tools from different providers for validating our HTML. For example, we have here validator.w3.org. Oh. What happens if you close the H2 further down? Great question. My question to you, Mel, is what happened was when I close it where down? Because now watch here. You see, the H2 is being automatically closed by my browser because my browser is trying to be smart and saying like, okay, well, you didn't close it. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. Right? So it is trying to close it. But since it's not, it assumes, well, you definitely, halfway maybe inside the UL element. Oh, see, this is what I love about y'all. Y'all just want to break stuff. Well, this is what we end up with. So let's just recap here. I close the H2 halfway through the UL. Neat. Let's have a look. Inspect. Now look at the absolute mess we end up with. So there's my one LI. And because I closed the H2, now bear with me, folks. Because I closed the H2 before closing the UL, you can't have a half open UL spread across, we'll get back to the marker, spread across different things. My browser says, I mean, you're the boss, Carmen, I guess. I'm just going to close the UL here. That's why we end up with this. So we close the H2, and there's a list item. Right? So there's a list item outside of a list, which my browser's like, well, I don't know what to do with that. There's your text, I guess. Because it's not inside an unordered, it's not inside a UL. So LI, no UL, looks like that. But the list item doesn't have the bullet point. That's exactly my point. Because there's no UL, my browser doesn't know how to render it. And you might be wondering, but it should have the bullet point. Well, what if I have an OL? Remember, there's two types of lists. There's unordered lists and ordered lists, right? So, okay, there's an OL, I guess. But since I don't know what kind of list this is, the browser's just like, there you go. It actually, you're saying it's weird. I actually think it kind of makes sense because otherwise we're assuming what kind of list it is. But hey, you know, it's a great way to fix it. Close your tags. Now, I love this question. What is the marker? Let's go back. Let's do it for the OL first. So a marker, wait, have we learned about this? If not, we're going to learn about it for CSS. This is what's called a, oh shoot, what is it called? Pre-element? Before element. Like this is called a pseudo element. That's the term. This is called a pseudo element. Element. Y'all are gonna hate me for this. Thank you, Eda. So marker here is what's called a pseudo element. Now, a pseudo element is a sort of element that goes inside an element. Oh, you're saying that on Free Code Camp, pseudo elements don't come up until CSS. Yeah, don't worry too much about understanding what they are. Remember, we familiarize ourselves with concepts, we don't memorize them. Pardon me. So in this case, this marker pseudo element is what my browser knows how to automatically handle for in this case, lists. Right? So for an ordered list, and look at this, y'all are gonna hate it. Hold on. Look at this. So this marker, user agent style sheet, this is the automatic part of my browser that styles HTML. It's saying for ordered lists, make this numbers. Hang on. Let me add. This isn't the most imaginative naming for HTML stuff. Bear with me. Cool. So where is my pseudo element? So font variant numeric tabular nums. This case, we're referring to the number. So the first one is going to have a 1. This 1, oh, this is going to be so nerdy, y'all. So check it out. This number 1 is not part of the markup, right? That is shown there to tell for us to be able, oh, how do I say this? For us looking at this viewport to see that this item is the first item. Take a look at this. Nothing here says that it's a number 2 because our browser automatically styles it with CSS to show a 2. Mel, you're asking, is marker a variable the browser keeps track of? No. I'm going to be annoying and specific here. No variables. We haven't learned variables yet. Variables don't come up until CSS. There's no variables in HTML. No variables at all. This is a pseudo element, a sort of element. And we're going to learn more about pseudo elements later on. There's before, there's after, there's marker, and there's other. I'm really sorry to be annoying, but don't think of these as variables. Think of these as elements that are kind of hidden from the naked eye for the browser to automatically know what to do that. So you're not following. I'm sorry. This isn't really part of today's session, but I really want to drive this home. This is our HTML, right? And here we see something called marker. Marker is a pseudo element. We have two types. We have our regular HTML elements, and we have this pseudo element. We can't see it. We can't see what its content is, but we can add styling to it to, for example, show a number. I don't want to get too far into this because we are going to get further on, as Matthew says, to talk about DOM. So this is just a tangent. Bear with me. Asking the questions. I love it. What does the list item look like if it didn't add the marker? You know what we can do? We can just remove it. Check it out. Wait, I want to remove it. How do I remove it? Remove it. Fine. What if I delete the CSS? Can I do that? Bear with me. Bear with me. Oh, I love this question. And I'm going to cheat and tell you all that this is something you won't need to do often. So can I not delete this? Go away. Oh, sorry, I'm more familiar with I'm more familiar with Firefox. Scroll into view. I've already done that. I want to delete this. I have to remove the values. That's what I'm trying to do. Can I just delete the whole thing? I think if I don't show, no. Give me a sec, folks. I do want to play around with this. OL. Something to do with the red cross at the top. No, absolute. I refuse to. I refuse to believe. Whew, it is not. Sorry, that's JavaScript stuff. We're not messing with JavaScript today. I'm so sorry to take us down this rabbit hole. I just love these tangents so much, and I get very easily interested in them. Little Alex asking, is that Vivaldi? It is indeed. What does it mean? If it didn't, I mean, I can show you. We can see it down here. Because this, oh, this one also has it. Darn it, now you're making me look silly. Services. I only recently switched to Vivaldi, so I'm not really sure how to remove it. Okay, I mean, I can tell you, Miss Rachel Dixon, what happens is it doesn't style it to have, for example, the 1. Or, watch this. If I change this back to a UL, inspect, marker, this is now a dot. So this marker, wait, let me just unselect this text. Check it out. The marker is now this dot. Add marker in the HTML. No, I don't think I can do that. That doesn't mean. Matthew's saying I can't see the bottom of the screen when a question is posted. Well, yeah, don't worry. That's the point. It says I'm supposed to be able to edit the source. Maybe there's a setting in the cogwheel at the top of the inspector. Look at y'all helping me. Thank you very much. More to, I don't want to go too much into this. Is impossible to do. Mel! If the bullet point dot is a pseudo element, does that mean we can replace it with an SVG? Yes. And not only that, but a lot of people do it. A lot of people put their own SVGs as, for example, different list markers. Okay, I'm taking us way off topic, folks. I'm sorry. We're talking about HTML validation. We'll talk about dumb fun stuff in a minute. The possibilities are endless. It's cool, right? So let's go back to the HTML validator. Let me just make sure this is big enough. Cool. So let's look at validate by direct input. And what I can do here is add my HTML with my broken list. Check it. And if I scroll down, oh, hold on. Sorry. I need to add all of my HTML. Bear with me, folks. There we go. Cool. Look, so now it's giving me all of my errors. Element P is not allowed as child of element H2 in this context, suppressing further errors in this subtree. Element UL is not allowed as a child of element H2 in this context. End tag H2 seen, but there were open elements. This is what I was trying to say earlier. So we closed the H2 without closing the UL. There we go. Unclosed element UL. element Li is not allowed as child of element body in this context. What this is saying is, hey, there's an Li, but there's no list it's inside. So an Li needs to be inside either a UL, unordered list, or OL, ordered list. Oh, I like what Mel is saying here. Reading errors and warnings is hard when you first start. So cryptic, not only cryptic, I find it intimidating. I remember finding errors intimidating when I started. But what I try to do with problem solving is to always break it down into very small parts. So, for example, focus on just the, like for example here, focus just on the fact that I have Li. Let's see what else we got. Stray end tag UL. Right? So tools like these help us validate our code. Now, what does validating mean in this context? What this tool is doing is going through our code and seeing common issues. But there's a couple of things to bear in mind here. Number one, this is just the syntax, right? So it's validating that the language itself, not the language, let's put it this way. Let's validating that the words are correctly spelled, right? But it's not validating the semantics. So it can't infer the meaning of what you're trying to do. I like what Mel's saying here. I tend to copy and paste my error messages into a search engine. That's super helpful. Believe it or not, a lot of folks have the same errors you do. So it's definitely helpful to validate your HTML. However, once that's done, you also need to look at your syntax. When will we start creating projects as a team? I love socializing and collaborating with people around the world. So in the streams themselves, I'm here to answer questions and take us through the concepts themselves. But collaboration, creating projects, highly recommend that y'all start connecting with each other, for example, on the Discord. Today, we're going to be having our first certification project, and I highly recommend that y'all collaborate on that. Now, let's do our Q&A for today, please. Why does a browser render tags correctly even there's an error like forgetting to close a tag? I love this. So we've got HTML does not care about closing a tag. The browser's parsing algorithm figures out the errors and tries to render the tags as intended. The code editor's diffing algorithm knows what the author wants to render. And HTML is smart enough to know what the author wants to show. So what do we think it is? And we're getting folks saying it's number 2. That's correct. Now, what do we have here? The question, what is an HTML validator? We have a tool for writing HTML, a tool for arranging HTML code, a tool for making HTML code work across browsers, or a tool that checks the validity of HTML. I want to take a moment to answer Eloadal's question. Will a Discord be around after the bootcamp ends, or would it be better to create another for longevity? If anyone's up to admin that. Yes. So we at the Bad Website Club have our channel on the Free Code Camp Discord, which should stick around. And we also have our own community. So don't worry. Moving on. Number 4, thank you, everybody. Now let's take a look at which of these is an example of an HTML validator. w3.org HTML validator, CSS lint, JavaScript debugger, or Photoshop. But again, as for the Discord itself, the plan is the plan is to sorry, that'll making me laugh. Yes, it's number one. No, about the Discord. Yeah, no, the plan is to have more boot camps and a community that sticks around. So don't worry. We're here for the long haul. Check our answers, which passes. We pat ourselves on the back, and we will move on to the DOM inspector and DevTools, which I'm super excited about because this is what we've been using a lot. Like, I love using the DOM inspector and the browser. And let's take a little tour through it. Oh gosh, I need to do this again, don't I? Fantastic. So actually, we've been using the DOM inspector and the DevTools a lot. Now, it might depend between browsers how to get it, how to show it. For example, on Vivaldi, on macOS, the keyboard shortcut is Option Command I. Myself, for example, I love to right click and go on Inspect. What I especially love about that is that it allows me to inspect a specific element. So if I right click, for example, here, I know you can't see the menu. Go on Developer Tools and then on Inspect. And then I can see this here. And let's start with this part here. This is the DOM inspector and the DOM, or the data object model. Now, the data object model, you might see just from a the data object model, as you can see as an implication here, includes all of the HTML that gets all of the HTML entities or objects or elements that get rendered by your browser. We can see our doctype HTML, each of our elements, each of these is an object, right? But it doesn't include only, sorry, my brain is not braining. It is Friday. It doesn't include only HTML elements. It also includes, for example, pseudo elements, which is what we were looking at earlier. These get created automatically by the browser to, for example, show us the list item markers. So I want to bring up Mel's question here. How does the DOM get created? Does the browser read the tags, create the tree every time you go to a page or refresh, or does it cache it? Now, this is a great question because it goes into how each individual browser works or browser engine works. So Vivaldi, for example, and Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome, these run on an engine called Chromium, right? Which has their own way of doing this. So how does it get created? I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea. I think it's C code. I think these are written in C or C++. I'm not sure. Does the browser read the tags, create the tree every time you go to a page, or refresh? Does it cache it? It might. It would make sense for it to do so. The reason I'm not going to going to indulge this rabbit hole is because, well, I want to get us through today's session, but I also want to demonstrate that it's something I've never really wondered. Not because it's a bad thing to wonder, but because I would assume, given my understanding, that, for example, it looks at an H1 and it's like, cool, I know what to do with an H1. It applies the CSS that you see there. Applies an H2. This is an H2. It knows what to do with an H2. So when an LI comes along, that's inside a UL, it knows, the browser knows to create a marker pseudo element. Mel's saying, I'd love to create my own browser, but it's a huge project that would take decades. By yourself? I mean, who knows? I mean, you got to give yourself, I think it's a good idea to think of that in terms of scope. I wrote, oh gosh, I can't remember what programming language I wrote it in. So I wrote a command line tool that turns my blog posts into, that reads an RSS feed. If you're not familiar, it's like a list of blog posts and turns the HTML into Markdown so I can read it in my terminal. In a way, that's kind of a browser. I'm kind of browsing the internet. So I think it depends on on scope. What I would recommend, by the way, if you do want to create your own browser, think of chunks, right? For example, one certain amount of time, focus on just showing the HTML. Then focus on the CSS engine, and then focus on the JavaScript interpreter. Separate from current, after the session, would you please recommend some books on HTML? I don't know any books on HTML, but I'm sure lots of learners in the chat do. I like to think of this as an endeavor of familiarizing myself with concepts first, and then having a place where I can come back and look up things that I need. So for example, having MDN as documentation that I can come back to. Ooh. The Wikipedia on Chromium has over 36 million source lines of code. Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. That is a lot of code. Isn't the text also its own element? Yes, a text element. You're absolutely right, Mel. Look, this is its own element too. I don't know if it's an element or like a text element. Yeah, I think it's a text element. Look, Edda's got a book for us. HTMLforpeople.com. Thank you, Edda. Isn't Chrome and Firefox both have the... Yeah, so actually this is true. Both Chrome and Firefox's code is open source, so you can go read it. My hat goes off to you if you do. That is an endeavor. Sorry, I'm getting us distracted here. So yes, this is the DOM. And usually your dev tools are going to have a DOM inspector. And what's really cool is usually you should be able to edit that DOM. Do you know what I'm going to do, friends? I'm going to load up Firefox because I'm familiar with Firefox. Waddle saying at least we could see what language they use. Very true. Where's my Firefox? I'm going to reshare my screen and we're going to... No, Carmen, we're going to be consistent and we're going to use Vivaldi. So how do I edit the DOM? I just want to... Wait, I can! Oh, I can't delete pseudo elements, huh? Okay, cool. Never mind. Here's what's cool about the DOM inspector. Sorry, folks, bear with me. You can make edits to it, right? Subheading 3, I'm going to call it Carmen 3. Now you noticed I edited this text element It shows here because this is the part of the DOM that I'm editing. But if you look here, still shows subheading 3. What's going on? This is not permanent. I can't just go to a website and edit the DOM in the DOM inspector and expect it to be able to change the website for everybody. That is not the case. This is for development purposes, right? What does that mean? It means that I can mess around with settings and things and find out what I can do. For example, in this case, messing around with H2 and seeing if something looks right. For example, below the DOM inspector, you're going to find the CSS inspector. I love this. This styles part is my favorite. I mess around a lot here. So we can see that we have an H2 styles, and we could see how the browser, in this case, for example, what the font size is for H2, what the font weight is. We're going to get into this when we learn CSS. But hey, let's say I want all H2, I want my H2 to be red. Right? We can see now all red. This doesn't mean that my website is now permanently red for this. It's not saved. This is temporary. And in fact, when I refresh, which I'll do now, it's back to the way it was. So this is the main part of what the dev tools are for. You also, as we saw earlier, have this for, let me just expand this a little bit. There's also a console. This is for JavaScript. We're not going to get too much into this because this is outside of the scope of this bootcamp, but we can write JavaScript here. I'll give you an example. Console log hello world. So I just wrote some JavaScript into the console that ran. It printed out the words hello world, but that just ran inside my browser, doesn't affect the website itself, and it's just stuck in there. We can also see things like errors here, or in this case, warnings. But there's more here. Another one that's, for example, really nice is the network tab. This is what we were talking about earlier. I think, Mel, you asked about this. Is that right? Yes. When you submit a form, well, no. Let me take a step back. The network tab inspects, this gets a little bit into JavaScript territory, so I apologize, but it is interesting to see what's going on here. This tab inspects any connection, any internet connection that your website makes. So for example, what do we got here? The HTML editor. It's actually, no, let's look at what FreeCodeCamp does. Okay, so open up the dev tools and I'm gonna refresh the page. So I need to refresh my browser. Now, you see all this stuff going on here? It might seem overwhelming, but essentially what's going on is we're looking at every single internet connection that FreeCodeCamp does. And yeah, it's a lot. So there's the build a survey form page itself, a font. What else are we doing here? Webpack. That's a technology for packing up websites. JavaScript, Google Analytics, V3, and so on and so forth. Sorry, you're asking how can you reach me on Discord? I'm in the FreeCodeCamp Discord itself. So in the bootcamp discussion channel, if you hold on, my nickname is Hola Soy Milk. So hola, hold on, hola _ soy _ milk. That's how you can ping me. I can't add you all as friends. I'm sorry. That's not what the boot camp's for. I can't help you all one-on-one. But if you got questions about the boot camp itself or any questions on other stuff, it's all you can ping me there on Discord. So, can you show form data? It's often hard to understand how name attributes are used with value. Can you elaborate on that question, please? Because I'm not sure I understood, but I believe, check your code. Should make a request. Let's have a look-see. In the stream description, but it's not there. If you go to the website for Bad Website Club, that's actually a really good, solid point. Thank you, Mel. No, but there's a link to the Bad Website Club website where you find the link to the Discord. So somewhere here, there should be a form. Gosh, that's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Do you know what? The easiest way to do this is to just put a form in here. But input type equals text, I think it's called. Input. I have no idea if I'm doing this right, by the way. I'm just going to write a form in here. And then button type equals submit. No, it's input type submit. Thank you, Mel. Input type submit. Test. Submit. Nothing should happen in theory. But I should maybe see my form. Use the HTML validator. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so we've got a form which I didn't close. And I think it's like, okay, I do not remember how to write a form off the top of my head. Is it action? No, target equals /. I have no idea if this is going to work, y'all, but it was something like this. Wait. Method in action. Ah! Thank you, Etta. Okay. Let's try it out. Test. It's been a while since I've done this. Action equals URL, method equals blank. Yeah, I think that's what I did. But it should show, unless FreeCodeCamp is blocking it, in which case, let's bring this over to the HTML editor. This actually makes a lot more sense. My bad, everybody. Okay. Body. Form action equals /. Yes! It did a thing! Okay, I need to widen this. This is really hard to do with so little, with everything so zoomed in. I hope you all know. Yes, yes, yes! Check it out. So, oh gosh. This is hard to do with everything so zoomed in. Sorry, everybody. Trying my best. Okay, check it out. So here you can see my submitted form. Test equals test. Oh, Carmen, why didn't you write something helpful? But yeah, we can see the form values there, which is good. But where's my payload? Yes. Look. So query string parameters, the value of test. Remember the input's name was test? And the value I set to test because that wasn't my best choice. But yeah, so you can you can use the network tab to inspect your form submission. I hope that was helpful. Yeah. Let's go back to learning how to build. Oh gosh, I feel so accomplished. Oh, let's try this example from Free Code Camp. So I'm so glad folks found that helpful. I was just panicking the whole time. It was great. Yeah. So we have a link here that goes to freecodecamp.org/larn. Somebody, I know it's confusing. I'm sorry. I just took us down a little bit of a rabbit hole of how to inspect your forms. I can show it again. Actually, I'm showing it now because check it out. We went to freecodecamp.org/larn, and we got an error here in our network tab that's like, hey, you tried to go to freecodecamp.org/larn, which is 404, which is an HTTP error code. That means this was not found. It means this website does not exist. There's lots of cute websites for what the different HTTP codes mean. For example, Free Code Camp links don't show up there in the editor. Right. Thank you, Edda. So for example, I really like one called HTTP Dogs that shows cute dog pictures with each of the HTTP errors. You don't have to memorize them though. I'm going to keep saying that. Okay, Mel is saying, show another example with radio buttons. Sure thing. This time I'll go slower and less panicky. So we're going to do here form action equals and Johannes is saying learn. That's correct. So the correct URL there was learn. I see we're running out of time, folks. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time on this and then wrap it up for today. So form, close the form. Input. Oh no, I don't remember how to do this. Input type radio name equals. People are saying don't forget the method. That is absolutely correct. But MDN form. I'm probably giving you all bad habits. Because you'll probably see method. Think type method. So you probably noticed that I left the method blank, and that's because by default, the method is get. Is it valid HTML? Yes. But it's good to be deliberate. So yes, thank you for reminding me to put in the method. Equals. Let's put post just for fun. Okay, name equals radio test. I'm sorry, I'm bad at this. And value is uno, number one. And then what goes in a radio button again? Value. And there's one more thing. I'm just going to look it up. Input radio. I love MDN. Name, drawn value, ID, name, label. Thank you all. That's how we do it. So radio, name, radio, test. ID is first. Value is uno. And the label we're going to make uno. I'm just going to put 2 radio buttons, okay? Bear with me, everybody. So, second. Value is dos. Second value is dos. Not fos, dos. Not os, dos. Reminding me of what I'm missing is really helpful for us to practice. Yeah, you see, even somebody who's been at it for as long as I do, I forget things. And I don't think these should both be checked. Cool. Cross your fingers, everybody. So I've got these 2. Who the heck is calling me? Not now. Cool. So I've got these 2 radio buttons. Now, I'm going to submit. Wait, I forgot my submit. Input, type, submit. Cool. I'm going to submit with dos. Oh, cross your fingers, everybody. So where is... Yes. I had a typo in my form. Yes. Look at that. I forgot to close my quote mark. Input is a void element. Yes, you're all absolutely right. Thank you. Okay, let me try that again. Scroll down, go over here. There it is. Radio test set to dos. Phew. So yeah, you can use the radio, you can use the network tab to test your forms. Thanks for your patience with me, everybody. Gosh, y'all are so patient with me. How about we go through we wrap up for today and y'all don't have to put up with my chaos anymore. Cool. First up, what is the process of finding and fixing bugs? We actually did a bunch of this today, so I'm really excited. So process of finding bugs and fixing bugs. We got scanning, building, debugging, and scripting. Oh, we've already got the answer here. Thank you very much. Debugging. What is the tree-like structure that represents the elements on a page called? We also did this a bunch. Oh, you find the enthusiasm contagious. Thank you. Sometimes I get a little self-conscious that I'm just like screaming alone at home. DOM. Yep. Very good. Thank you. And what is the role of the Elements tab in the developer tools? And this is where we were playing around with the I almost gave the answer away. We've got, it shows you the HTML structure, the CSS structure, the JavaScript structure, and the PHP structure. So we played a bunch with this today. What do we think it is? Y'all are so kind and patient with me. And people are saying it's number 1. And you're saying, doesn't it also show the CSS? So Yang. Yes and no. Let's go back here real quick. So the Elements tab does split up into this itself, but the styles computed stuff, these are tabs that are not part of this Elements tab per se, but rather it's part of the settings of the browser that it knows, okay, if we want to see the Elements tab, I will also show the Styles tab. So like you're mostly correct. Right. So yes, HTML structure, do we check our answer? And it's correct. Pat, everybody. We did it. Oh gosh, thank you all so much for bearing with me. Let's just take a look at what's left for today. And look at our first certification project. So this is the survey form. Now, I know I've been encouraging all of you to collaborate, ask questions, and do all of that, but I highly recommend that this first certification project, you handle as much as possible on your own, right? You're going to see that this isn't too different from labs, right? However, we've got our user stories as before. We've got our tests. And remember, we want to focus on that. Thank you. We want to focus on that test-driven development. However, there's more user stories and an absolute plethora of tests. This is going to take a little bit longer, and I want to remind all of you that this certification project is required in order to complete this responsive web design certification and the bootcamp itself. So where does asking for help and collaborating come in? I would recommend trying where possible to ask questions, answer questions, use the Discord, use the forum, if the Discord's not an option, and try to break things down as much as possible. I don't have the answer for what is the best heuristic for asking questions, what is the best approach to asking questions. Try to do so in a way that unblocks you where possible without robbing yourself of the opportunity to try and really have a go at it first. I love Eduardo's advice here. I recommend using an external editor to write and then copy paste the code into FreeCodeCamp. Some examples include Visual Studio Code. What? There was another one that people used a lot. CodePen. Thank you, Matthew. There was another one. What was it called? Not Atom. What was the one that people used a lot before? I use something called Vim, which I like a lot. Sublime Text. Thank you, Eda and Eduardo. NeoVim, I see here. Sublime. Ooh. I like to draw things out on paper first, then draw boxes around inputs to represent the field sets. That's really cool. Yeah. So there's lots of options for editors. That way you can keep a copy of it on your computer and not over rely on keeping everything online. Gosh, we've covered a lot today, huh? Let's try and take stock of the fact that we have been through 2 weeks of this 10-week bootcamp, and we've been through a lot. Remember to take breaks. Remember to be kind to yourself, and it'll click. Doesn't immediately click, and we go off on tangents. Going off on tangents is fine. Just keep the eyes on the prize. Oh, I like this. Give pointers, not code. Great advice. Folks, that is it for today. We'll be back on Monday. We're going to be doing accessibility. Actually, no, let me bring my screen back. As much as I like looking at myself. Oh my goodness, look at all this reading. So next week, we're going to be doing loads of accessibility. Remember to take your time, take notes, bring questions. It's going to be so important. And yeah, let's go easy on ourselves and go have a weekend. I am going to be going to Innsbruck, which is in the west of Austria, for a little getaway. I'm very excited. I wish you all of the best. Remember, everything's recorded on youtube.com/@badwebsiteclub. And take it easy, everybody. Bye for now.